What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave. As I mentioned in a previous video, we are going to be talking pretty much exclusively about Set 6 now and deck lists related to Set 6. I did put a deck together today. We are going to be talking about Amber Emerald. If you haven't seen my previous video, I talked a lot about what's going to be coming up next for the channel and what you may want to see. So if you didn't get a chance to voice your opinion in the last video, definitely go check that out. There was also a giveaway. We're giving away 2 of these entirely for free. These are Mickey and Minnie Jungle Cruise Itty Bitties. These are Walt Disney World 50th Anniversary exclusive Itty Bitties set. If you're not familiar with those, Itty Bitties are kind of like Funko Pops. There's a ton of different tiny little characters, but that one is Mickey and Minnie on the Jungle Cruise. We're going to be giving away 2 of those. All you have to do is comment on the previous video, make your opinion heard, and you get a free entry to win. You also get a second entry into the booster box giveaway that's going to be coming up very soon. This is going to be your last opportunity to enter any giveaways on that video, so definitely go drop those comments now. The giveaway for the Itty Bitties is going to be coming in Monday's video, and hopefully the giveaway for the booster box is going to be coming very soon. We're getting super close to 2,000 subscribers. As always, big shout out to the Patreons for making those giveaways possible. I couldn't do it without you guys. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into talking about this Emerald Amber aggro list. We're going to jump in immediately with the new cards. The first one is going to be Fred, Mascot by Day, a 1-cost inkable character, 1/1 stat line questing for 1. But whenever this character is challenged, you gain 2 lore. So kind of similar to like the Flynn Rider and Cursed Merfolk abilities, except this one's going to be giving you lore instead of making your opponent discard a card, which I think is really super interesting. It's a great way to help keep the lore pressure on, and this deck is going to be doing a little bit of recursion, so you may even be able to see this guy multiple times in the game. Next up, you know her, you love her. We are on 4 Daisy Duck, Donald's Date, a 1/4 character questing for 2 with the ability Big Prize. Whenever she quests, your opponent's going to go ahead and reveal the top card of their deck. If it is a character, they may put it into their hand. More often than not, your opponent's going to put the character in their hand, but sometimes maybe there is a use case for them putting it on the bottom of their deck. If you haven't seen my Ruby Amethyst video, definitely check that out. I talked about an instance where I did actually have a more favorable opportunity to deny the card draw, even though I did flip into a character. But 1/4 questing for 2 is absolutely crazy, stays out of the range of all those steal damage cards. Most of the cards that are going to deal with this aren't necessarily stuff that your opponent's going to want to play on a 1-cost character. The biggest crux to her in the meta right now is Madame M. Fox, in my opinion. Next up, and our last card in the 1-drop slot, that is right, we're on 12 1-costs, is a 1-cost uninkable character, Cursed Merfolk, a 0/1 questing for 2. Like I mentioned when we were talking about Fred, this is going to have a similar ability where when it is challenged, which is almost always going to banish it, it's 0/1. Why would they challenge with something that isn't going to banish it? Your opponent is going to discard a card. So again, we're going to be potentially looking at recurring this guy if it is relevant. But really keeping the pressure on, trying to get the discard going early. And speaking of getting the discard going early, we are on 4 Ursula Deceiver, a 2-cost inkable character, 1/3 stat line questing for 1. And when you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a song card of your choice. You may make them discard any song card you like, and she is also going to be a potential recursion target for this deck to be able to make them do it multiple times if you're in like those Steel Song matchups or decks that are particularly song heavy. Also in the 2-drop slot, it's worth noting almost 2/3 of this deck is 2-cost or less cards, which I think is really kind of cool. Super aggressive with keeping the pressure on and just getting a ton of characters out as fast as possible. We do have the 2-cost Simba Protective Cub, a 2/3 stat line bodyguard questing for 1. You're not necessarily going to be looking to bodyguard some of those early characters because generally you do want your opponent to challenge into them, but Simba becomes really good after turn 2 into the later game when you have some of those characters out that maybe you want to be able to sing with or do other things with, and then you want to protect them with a bodyguard. He's also a shift target now, which is cool. Then the last 2-drop character in the deck, you may have guessed, is going to be Flynn Rider, Charming Road. We are on 4 of them, a 2-cost inkable character, 1/2 stat line questing for 2, and doing the same ability as Cursed Merfolk, where when your opponent challenges into him, they are going to discard a card. There is a potential that you could get multiple challenges into them, but I don't see why your opponent would challenge with something with less than 2 attack and leave your Flynn Rider on the board, unless they just want to discard cards and help you out. Another way to keep that pressure on and keep your opponent's hand low. Then some more discard to kind of take advantage of. We are on 4 Sudden Chill, a 2-cost inkable action song. Each opponent chooses and discards a card. Fantastic card, great way to keep the pressure on. All those 2-cost characters in the deck all those 2-cost characters in the deck, we are going to be super comfortable with singing this. Flynn is great to be able to quest in, but if you sing with it, you're still getting him exerted and potentially getting another discard in those matches where it's more relevant, where you're playing the long game a little bit more. In those matches where you want to be super aggressive, just going back and forth with something like hyper aggro, Flynn can do that too. It's a very versatile card, and Sudden Chill is just going to make him all that much better. We are on Ursula, Deceiver of All in this deck, which we'll talk about more later, which is potentially going to let you double sing this card and get your opponent to discard 2 very early in the game. Another way to potentially get your opponent to discard 2 with the Deceiver of All is going to be the Bare Necessities, a 2-cost inkable action song. Chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a non-character card of your choice. There are certain instances against certain decks where you may actually be better off playing this on 2 and slowing down your aggression a little bit. If you're playing into, for instance, that Sapphire matchup and you're expecting your opponent to play something like Fishbone Quill, which Sapphire is pretty much always going to want to do, or even in the later game playing something like Lucky Dime, you can potentially snipe that out of their hand before they get it on the board. So there are certain instances where, as opposed to singing this, you may actually in that Sapphire matchup want to go ahead and just hard cast on turn 2, get rid of that Fishbone Quill, slow them down while you just win the game. So Bare Necessity is a great way to rip some stuff from your opponent. It's going to take any non-character card, so it can also potentially deal with locations, songs, all that good stuff. Speaking of 2-cost action songs, we are on 3 Heffalumps and Woozles. Probably my favorite new card to say. Pretty hilarious name. A 2-cost inkable action song. Chosen opposing character can't quest during their next turn, which that is like okay to slow your opponent down. But moreover, what it's going to do is it's going to let you draw a card. If you are singing it with Ursula, you can potentially make 2 characters unable to quest during the next turn and draw 2 cards. Then our last card in the 2-drop slot, we do have another 2-cost inkable action song. We're on 4 I Won't Give In. Return a character with cost 2 or less from your discard to your hand. So this is one of those recursion options I was talking about. As I mentioned, we do have 24 2-cost or less characters in this deck to potentially take advantage of, and they're all cards that you would love to get back in your hand. Being able to recur Flynn, Simba, Ursula, Curse Merfolk, Daisy Duck, Fred, just really going to help you keep that pressure on and win the game super early. The fact that you can sing it is just an added bonus, particularly if you're going something like turn 2 Ursula Deceiver. You're not feeling so bad about singing with her on turn 3. She's only questing for 1, so that this may be something you take advantage of. Singing with her then, say maybe your Curse Merfolk died or your Daisy Duck died, you go ahead and get it back and just keep that pressure on going into the later turns. Obviously, all good decks need some card draw, and this deck has it in the form of Prince John, a 3-cost uninkable 1/2 stat line questing for 2. He does have Ward, so he's going to prevent your opponent from being able to target him. They're going to have to look at doing something like grab your swords or be prepared potentially to deal with him. And he does have the ability, I Sentence You. Whenever your opponent discards 1 or more cards, you may draw a card for each card discarded. It is worth noting, if you don't know, if you have 2 Prince Johns on the board and your opponent discards a card, you are going to draw for both Prince Johns. So keep that in mind. Great way to get some card draw going. He is very much on curve with some of the later stuff or some of the stuff that is going to let you draw. Another way to slow your opponent down and keep them from just controlling your board and preventing you from winning is going to be Lyle Tiberius Rourke, a 3-cost uninkable character, 2/4 stat line. Not an irrelevant first ability, not why most people play him, but the first ability is pretty great. Well, now you know when you play this character, chosen opposing character gains Reckless, so you're going to be able to force an opposing character to take an attack, maybe into something that they don't want to attack into, like Flynn Rider, Curse Merfolk, that Fred, all sorts of that stuff that you are playing in the early game. And when one of your other characters is banished, each opponent loses 1 lore. So in the instance of saying play something on turn 1 like Fred, turn 2 you start questing in with it, they're probably not going to banish it. All of a sudden turn 3 you throw down Lyle, give something Reckless, forcing them to attack into that Fred, and when they banish it, not only are you going to gain 2 lore, but they're going to lose 1 lore. So creating a 3 lore swing is definitely not irrelevant by any means. As I mentioned, also in the 3-cost slot, we're on 3 Ursula Deceiver of All. Her, Lyle, and Prince John are some of the main characters you definitely want to protect with some of those bodyguard characters that you do have in the deck. By keeping them protected, keeping them readied in some instances, you are going to be able to go ahead and sing multiple times or take advantage with singing with a character you may not sing with otherwise, or questing with a character you may not quest with otherwise. But Ursula Deceiver of All, a 3-cost inkable character, 2/3 stat line, questing for 1, and the ability What a Deal. Whenever this character sings a song, you may go ahead and sing it again and then go ahead and put it on the bottom of your deck. So not only are you going to sing it twice, but you are going to get that card back and continue to recur those characters or make your opponent discard, or both. Next up in the 3-cost slot, we are on 4 Donald Duck Musketeer Soldier, a 3-cost inkable 2/3 stat line, questing for 1. He does have bodyguard, so this is, as I mentioned, is going to be a great way to protect those Ursulas, those Lyles, and those Prince Johns, as well as other characters if you do want to protect some of your other characters. When you play this character, chosen character is going to quest for 1 additional lore this turn, so great way to target some of those early drops and just get an extra sneaky lore. You go like turn 1 Daisy, turn 2 Flynn, turn 3 this guy, all of a sudden you're questing for 2 on turn 2, 5 on turn 3, so you're jumping yourself right up to 7 by turn 3 of the game. But again, Donald Duck isn't necessarily something you want to play on turn 3, the bodyguard may be better later. Our only 4-cost card in the deck, we are on 3 Sven Reindeer Steed, a 4-cost inkable 3/3 stat line, questing for 2. And when you play this character, you may ready chosen character. They can't quest or challenge the rest of the turn. They can still sing, which is worth noting. So if you want to keep it readied, you could leave your Ursula readied, you could leave your Prince John readied after they've sung. Play Sven, he's very much on curve with them. You go turn 3 Prince John, turn 3 Ursula, whichever one it may be. Turn 4, you go ahead and sing with them. You play Sven, ready him back up, and then they could sing another song if that is the better option, or you can just leave them readied so they're ready to sing the following turn or do something else the following turn, keep them from getting banished. And our only 5-cost character is going to be Simba Pride Protector, a 5-cost uninkable character, 4/4 stat line, questing for 2, shifting for 3, so again can potentially be on curve into turn 4. So you could go like turn 2 Simba Protective Cub, turn 3 Ursula, turn 4 you go ahead and shift Simba into this guy, quest for 2, which is great to keep the pressure on, and at the end of your turn, if this character is exerted, you may ready your other characters, so you can go ahead and get that Ursula readied back up to go into the next turn, get that Prince John readied back up to go into the next turn. So you're looking at like turn 1 Curse Merfolk, let's say turn 1 Daisy, turn 2 Simba, turn 3 Ursula, turn 4 Sing with Ursula, shift Simba, quest for potentially 4, and then you're going to go ahead and be able to ready those other characters as well and keep them alive. Simba I think is really cool. Testing it with 2 right now. This deck is fairly heavy on uninkables because it is such a low curve, so I didn't want to do too many Simba, drive the uninkable count up even further. Last up in the 6-drop slot, we are on 2 Perdita Devoted Mother, a 6-cost uninkable 1/6 stat line, questing for 2. Keeping with the recursion theme of the deck, when you play this character and whenever she quests, you may play a character with cost 2 or less from your discard for free. We do have 24 relevant characters to recur. Getting that Ursula back out is going to let you look at your opponent's hand again, potentially make them discard card again. Just being able to look at their hand can be really good. Being able to recur that Simba, you can potentially protect your board with a bodyguard if that is the better option. Being able to recur Flynn, you can continue to make them discard, keep that lore pressure on. Daisy Duck to keep that lore pressure on. People may think Daisy Duck is counterintuitive to such a discard focused deck, but I think Daisy Duck is fantastic. If your opponent has discarded down to 0 cards in your hand and you want to continue to take advantage of Prince John when they have no cards in their hand, they're probably going to continue to play their cards because they know you're going to try to make them discard, so they're going to keep that hand empty, whereas Daisy Duck is potentially going to make them draw a card for you to make them discard, so they may be looking at their top card of their library and just declining that draw trigger while you gain 2 lore on a 1/4 character. So Daisy Duck is very good. The deck is super aggressive, super fun to play. It's got a lot of different lines for different things. It's going to be able to go into a more control heavy matchup that's going to go a little bit longer because it's going to be able to keep up with those discard focused shenanigans, and it's also going to be able to beat those decks that are a little bit slower just by going super heavy aggro right at the beginning and maybe not worrying as much about making your opponent discard. But what do you guys think? Do you think I played the right cards? Do you like the cards from the new set? What do you think about Fred? I think Fred is maybe a little bit of a divisive card, being a 1/1 for 1. He is inkable, which I think is neat, so I think he's very highly playable in my opinion. But I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of the new Simba? What's your favorite card from AZURITE Seas? Is it Maui Shark like everybody else? Because that Maui Shark is crazy. Just to mention it one more time, there is that giveaway on the last video, so if you haven't had a chance to enter that, we'll go ahead and link it at the end of this video, so you can click on that link here and it is going to take you over to that video to be able to enter into the giveaway. It is 100% free and you can get yourself a chance to win something neat. But that being said, thank you guys as always for sticking around to the end. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and when you see those toys, video games, and decks that are going to let you recur things over and over again off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage, You guys have a great day.